Hey, it's been a while. I feel like I've been saying that for almost every video now, and I really have no idea if it's ever going to get better, so here's hoping it does. So recently I was having a conversation with a person who asked me to help them with advice for getting into software engineering, and I didn't really think that I had anything useful to offer until after my conversation with the person was over, and I had this strong urge to just share this with more people, hoping it would inspire them or give them guidance in any way. And therefore, here I am on a very lovely night, sitting in front of a camera, spitting words. So I think the most logical place to start would be high school, because before that I was just being a dumb kid who went to school, played in the park, and got into lots of trouble. Now, I was born and raised in Fiji, which is a tiny little paradise in the Pacific Islands. You may have heard of it. And after leaving primary school, I had to make a very important decision. Should I take computer studies, pure sciences, which is basically physics, chemistry, and biology, or go into the mystical realm of arts and accounting? Ugh. Now, as you might have guessed, I of course was going to select computer studies, but being a young preet is hard if all you want at that age is to hang out with your friends and have classes with them. But all of them were taking up the pure sciences combo, and as much as I'd have loved to do computer studies by myself, I decided to say bye-bye to my dreams and hopes of playing with computers, and I joined the dark side. Now, I don't know what it was, and I guess it's the whole you want what you can't have situation, but I really started to fall in love with computers and would skip biology class just to go and help out the students in the computer lab, and sometimes help them do their assignments. And so I got a huge kick out of all of it. I also started learning via online courses such as the ever so famous Harvard CS50 Intro to Computer Science course that is taught by David Malin, and delved in the whole concept of iOS programming. Now, I wouldn't make anything useful and would most literally just copy and paste code, but boy oh boy did it feel so good to see the things that I had created. But during all of this, I also started loving biology in chemistry classes that I was taking, which meant that when it was time to leave high school, I was very confused as to what I was supposed to do. Now, Fiji doesn't really have the best computer science or software engineering degrees, and I was quite bummed about the whole job market in Fiji, where there was pretty much no interest in hiring software engineers. Now, I'm sure that there might have been a lot of jobs that I just wasn't aware of, and I'm sure that most of that has just changed within the last couple of years. But back then, there were only a couple of companies that I was even willing to work at. But hope was not lost. I also really loved the idea of becoming a doctor. Until today, I'd love to go back and study medicine. And thankfully, Fiji had a good medical program and a very generous scholarship to go with it, which I applied for and later managed to get. Meanwhile, I was also looking at New Zealand and Australian universities and was in absolute awe of their software engineering degrees. But holy moly were they expensive. My entire degree was probably going to cost me somewhere around $280,000 in tuition fees alone, and that's not even starting to think about the costs of accommodation or the scary thoughts of living alone. Now, there was no scholarship that was going to cover my dream of studying software engineering in either of those countries, but enter the heroes who don't wear capes, but damn they should. My parents. Not only were they ever so supportive of willing to cover my cost for education, but they've always been so nice about me breaking all the new toys that they would get for me, just so I could build little fans and lights out of them. My dad was instrumental in getting me hooked into computers, and he would sort of always just fulfill my cravings of trying out the latest in technology. During my high school years, I also started this, my YouTube channel, and I used it as a way to talk about cool things I had lying around my house, and also play around with the idea of videography. Now, you'll notice that I didn't mention the fact that I wrote my first bootloader in C at the age of 13, or made an app that would make me rich. That's because I wasn't really a child prodigy, nor do you have to be one in order to become a software engineer. A lot of people think that you need to have been coding from very early on in order to be good at this thing, and that's just not true. all I had up until the age of 17 was the curiosity and admiration for technology and a strong urge to just make something. And I think that passion worked in my favor when I applied and got into the University of Auckland here in New Zealand. Now, getting through university, being new to a country and not knowing anybody or how to get around is a separate video entirely that I'm sure I'll make at some point. But for now, let me talk through how my software engineering degree was structured. My first year only had one course related to coding, which was the Introduction to Programming class. The university had a very interesting structure, which I'm sure other universities have as well, where all engineering students had to go through the same first year courses where you're sort of all exposed to this other engineering disciplines such as materials, chemical, electrical, mathematical modeling, mechanics, amongst other things. I didn't really get the whole idea of why I was supposed to go through papers that weren't software related, but I had a lot of fun learning them, and I'm sure it has led to much more informed conversations later on in life, such as why bridges have the shape that they do and how materials could be strengthened. The Intro to Programming paper was really interesting because I got to learn C and MATLAB, and you can't really build applications using those, or well, at least I couldn't with my little experience. I learned how to write efficient algorithms, think about code structure and logic, and sort of all the basic foundational content that I had learned through the CS50 course I had taken back in high school. Also, in my first year, I tried to apply to a bunch of internships, but was quite unsuccessful in landing any, mostly because in New Zealand, companies prefer to take second or third year students up for internships first. So after giving up, I decided to go back to Fiji and take a nice long summer break. However, life had other plans, and I managed to talk my way through to an internship back at home, and my task was to build a web application. Now, having done no web design or knowing how to develop a website, I will leave the details of how bad the code was and how unusable the final built application was, but I didn't really care about any of that. I knew that doing that one internship wouldn't make me sort of the greatest programmer. I was more so excited about the fact that I had experience that I could now put on my resume when I was applying for other internships back in New Zealand. So overall, my first year, I'd say, was great. I learned very little about software development, but I made a lot of friends and memories that I will cherish forever. Now, I won't go into the course details for the rest of my software engineering degree, mostly because they are sort of not that important and pretty standard, but I will say that while I did have my fair share of programming, database design, and algorithms courses, the software engineering degree at the university sort of also gave me the opportunity to practice teamwork and agile development, which were sort of very instrumental in building a professional persona that you sort of need when you go into a job. I also joined this program called the Microsoft Student Accelerator, which is basically a bootcamp that teaches you web development and provided opportunities to sort of land internships with companies at the end of the year. I knew that I could use all the help I could in polishing my CV, and adding web development to my portfolio would be quite beneficial. I didn't just rely on the accelerator program for internships, and I tried to apply directly myself, but there were a lot of other well-deserving candidates those companies decided to go with. I knew that I had to keep improving myself after every failed interview, and I could have chosen to just give up and rely on the accelerator program to get me an internship, but I kept interviewing and getting rejected, which taught me how to do better the next time. And by the end of the year, when I was offered the chance to talk with employers through the Microsoft Accelerator program, I felt a lot better and I had much more confidence to present myself strongly. So at the end of my second year, I landed an internship at Datacom here in Auckland, and I made a vlog about my day in the life, which you can check out somewhere over here if you're interested. And I absolutely loved my experience and mentors from Datacom who were super supportive of me and my team making mistakes and sort of helped us improve. At the end of the internship, I had a much better grasp of web development, which is good. Learned a new programming language, TypeScript, learned sort of the things about Azure and everything to sort of do with that realm of things, and got a lot of public presentation experience, which is really useful for anyone to have. Now, My third year was the most important. This was the final year to intern with a company, and most students get offered a permanent contract after their internship, so the pressure is quite high to get an internship with your dream company. Now, I spent a lot of time, and I mean sleepless nights, going through sort of lead code and doing those exercises, and spent hours writing the best CV I could. By August, which is usually when most students have internships secured, I had accumulated around 15 rejections and 0 offers. But I did have 2 last interviews remaining. One was with a quite big company, and the other was with this company called Matter. I had absolutely no idea what Matter did, since they were pretty much a startup, and nor did I care. I focused all my efforts on the bigger company interview, and I managed to get it. So when my interview with the people from Matter was coming up, I pretty much did not care about it and did no preparation for it. But my interview with Matter was so great, mostly because of the interviewers who were genuinely nice to me and took a great interest in who I was versus sort of the qualifications that I was bringing, which made me really reconsider taking up the other offer I had. Now, here I was approaching a decision that was supposed to be quite easy to make. On one hand, I had an internship offer from a really big company where a few of my friends were going, and on the other, I had an offer from a startup that I knew barely anything about. Now, I don't really know why, but I decided to go with Matter, and I think at the time I reasoned it by saying that at a smaller company, I'd have a lot more to learn and have the opportunity to wear multiple hats and be quite hands-on with the product. And thank God I did, because here I am after completing my 4th and final year and graduating, frankly, and I'm still at Matter. I think the takeaway from this experience was that you really shouldn't chase after what everyone else makes you think is right. You need to reason with yourself and choose the path in life which feels right to you. Now sure, if I had gone with the bigger company, I might have had a better experience, but there's no way for me to find out now. I'm not going to sit here and worry about that, because for me, I chose the direction that felt right and got me excited. So, today, I get to work at Matter as a developer advocate and software engineer, and I get to work on really interesting problems and projects that I wouldn't have even imagined of working on. I get to interact with customers, find solutions to their problems, and build on the foundation for the next generation of the internet. So, that's all I have got for you today. I hope that you learned something from my experiences, or if anything, got a good story time out of me. I'll end this video by saying this. Everybody has their own path because you're the ones creating it. Just take time to enjoy the journey, learn from your struggles, and strive to be the best version of yourself. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.